Today on Bridge City News, it was a great day for the annual Lethbridge Kidney Walk, raising funds and awareness. Trade talks between the U.S. and China have failed to reach an agreement as U.S. tariffs kick in and shopping begins to get more expensive. And concerned parents in Washington protested after the state passed a bill that requires children to be vaccinated if they attend daycare or school.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Paul Arthur.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. When it comes to organ donations, Canada ranks just 23rd in the world. According to the National Kidney Foundation, 16 to 17 people die every day while waiting for a transplant of a vital organ. This morning, the annual Kidney Walk took place at Henderson Lake Park in Lethbridge in support of those who suffer from the disease, as well as the families who have lost a loved one. For some, it was an emotional day.
We had some time to say goodbye before they shut off his life support. And so I said, what about organ donation? Is he a candidate for that? And they were like, he's not a registered donor. We already checked. And I said, yeah, I know, but that's just because of who he is, that he's not a registered donor. And so they talked about it. It turned out that he was really the ideal organ donor. His brain function had ceased, but his heart had never stopped beating before they got him on life support. So he was really the ideal organ donor, and so that sort of just started the whole process.
The number of organ donor registrations has been increasing across Canada. The Lethbridge Walk raised over $20,000. A group of bikers in Lethbridge are passionate about supporting family and youth in our community as Bikers Building Bridges hosted their MamaPalooza event this morning at the Interfaith Food Bank along with Woods Homes and over a dozen local sponsors. The group says bringing people together is what it's all about.
I think sometimes we get caught up just doing things on our own instead of being a group or a community, and it just builds a stronger Lethbridge, a stronger place for us to live and a stronger place for our children, and that is what Bikers Building Bridges is about, youth at risk, and the way to stop them from being at risk is by being with them and showing them positive influence. Volunteering in your community is positive influence, and the more they see us do it, the more they're going to want to do it.
Bikers Building Bridges will be hosting another event this June, which will raise money for the Alberta Children's Hospital in Calgary. The City of Medicine Hat got some welcome economic news as a local company, Kinetech Target Systems, was awarded a $51 million contract this week to help develop a new unmanned aerial system for the Canadian Armed Forces. Company officials say they expect to hire another 30 workers. The first phase of expansion is scheduled to be completed in August, with work expected to begin shortly afterward. A Lethbridge man has been sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. Back in November of 2018, 28-year-old Logan Drake drove a stolen truck through a stop sign at the intersection of Highways 4 and 845 just south of Lethbridge, colliding with another vehicle, causing very serious injuries to 3 people who needed to be transported to hospital by air ambulance. Drake initially denied he was the driver and fled the scene. He was also charged for drug trafficking. A Southern Alberta woman who was arrested earlier this year for failing to appear in court on animal cruelty charges has been granted bail. April Irving, who is 59, was charged in 2015 with animal cruelty and neglect after 201 emaciated dogs were seized from a Milk River property. 5 other dogs had starved to death. A warrant was issued after she missed 2 court appearances in 2016, and officials suspected she had moved to Jamaica. Mounties arrested her in Manitoba in January and transferred her back to Alberta. Pinscher Creek RCMP are asking for public assistance in tracking down the suspects in an early morning break-in yesterday at the Summerview feedlot near Pinscher Creek. The thieves stole a gun from a locked storage room as well as meat from a freezer. A white truck and white side-by-side OHV with orange fenders was seen leaving the area. Anyone with information is asked to contact Pinscher Creek RCMP. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says Alberta's opposition to a carbon tax won't influence his cabinet's decision on whether to approve the Trans Mountain pipeline expansion. He says climate change cannot be ignored and that one of the easiest ways to fight it is with a carbon tax, claiming the federal carbon tax remains affordable to Canadians, with tax incentives to ensure an average family does not get punished. Premier Jason Kenney's new government has promised to kill the province's carbon tax. Significant rainfall has officials warning that water levels are expected to rise again this weekend between Ottawa and Montreal. The City of Ottawa remains under a state of emergency, first declared on April 25th. It is warning residents that floodwaters are forecast to reach levels close to the peak hit back on the 30th of last month. Canadian Forces personnel have been deployed in Pembroke, Ontario, to ensure the town's critical infrastructure remains protected. Chess Crosby, Newfoundland and Labrador's Tory leader, says a candidate opposed to legal abortion and same-sex marriage will not be in his party's caucus if elected next Thursday. It's a complete turnaround from Crosby's comments a day earlier when he stated that while he disagreed with Michael Normore's views, he did believe he was still a fine candidate. Crosby now says comments made by Normore on social media are incompatible with the party's positions. Meanwhile, south of the border, the Louisiana legislature is close to passing a law which would ban abortions after a fetal heartbeat is detected about 6 weeks into a pregnancy. Ohio, Kentucky, and Mississippi have also passed heartbeat laws, which will inevitably be challenged in court by pro-choice groups. Lawmakers sponsoring the bans have made it clear their goal is to ultimately overturn the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision, which legalized abortion. The U.S. isn't finished imposing tariffs on China. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer says his office is preparing to impose tariffs on the $300 billion in Chinese products that aren't already facing import taxes. The latest escalation in Washington's dispute with Beijing came just hours after an 11th round of talks between the two countries ended without an agreement. The Association of Global Automakers warns the increased tariffs on Chinese imports will hurt exports of American-made vehicles. United Nations officials say nearly all of the world's countries, including Canada, have agreed on a deal to better manage plastic waste, the U.S. being the most notable exception. A legally binding framework affecting thousands of types of plastic waste emerged yesterday after a 2-week meeting in Geneva. Countries that have signed on will have to monitor and track movements of plastic waste outside their borders. Washington State Governor Jay Inslee signed a bill into law yesterday that requires children to get the combined measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine if they attend daycare or school. Parents will no longer be able to claim an exemption for their children, and concerned parents gathered to protest against the bill outside the signing ceremony.
Just three months ago, I had to declare an emergency due to an outbreak that infected dozens of people right here. We had 71 cases in Clark County, 71 unnecessary cases of measles. Now, the good news is that our outbreak is over as of Monday, April 29th. Thank you to everybody here to make sure we got this under control. But we continue to have to be alert now to continued infection. Nationwide, there are 764 unnecessary measles infections have been reported. This is the highest number in the United States since 1994.
We're not here to take away anybody else's rights, whether they choose to vaccinate or not. We just are asking for that same right to decide for our own children what's best for their health and for their safety. We don't have anybody that has come to our aid to help us, and so further vaccinating our children who have been injured by this, by vaccines, is only going to take a further toll on our family, and it's not a risk that we're willing to take.
Police are reminding the public that 911 is for emergencies only after they say a 12-year-old boy south of Brantford, Ontario, called to complain about his parents. They say the boy dialed the emergency line Thursday night after his parents asked him to get off the internet and help wash some dishes. Police say it takes at least 2 officers roughly half an hour to respond to these calls, which takes resources away from real emergencies. I'm thinking that boy's going to be doing a lot of dishes over the next couple of weeks. Recapping one of our top stories this hour, significant rainfall has officials warning that water levels are expected to rise again this weekend between Ottawa and Montreal. The city of Ottawa remains under a state of emergency. And a look at weekend weather. What a beautiful day it was, and those above normal temperatures will continue. Clear skies overnight with a low of 13. For tomorrow, sunshine and a west wind gusting from 20 to 40, and a summer-like high of 26 degrees. A major election promise from Jason Kenney and the UCP was red tape reduction to help Alberta businesses thrive. Hal Roberts sat down with Grant Hunter, the Associate Minister of Red Tape Reduction, to get the details. That's next. But first, here's a look at what's happening in and around your community.
Here's your Bridge City News community calendar. Lethbridge Bike Fest is a full month of exciting and informative events encouraging you to get out and ride. Taking place Friday, May 17th from 2 to 4 p.m. is the Bike Mechanic Workshop at the Crossings Branch Public Library in West Lethbridge. Have the helpful technicians from Ascent Cycle get your bike into tip-top riding shape for summer. For more information about this and other Bike Fest events, visit yqlbikefest.ca. If you love the game of golf, get involved and be a volunteer at the second annual Lethbridge Paradise Canyon Open, a Mackenzie Tour PGA Tour Canada event, June 20th to the 23rd. There are a number of positions needed to be filled, and you'll gain the experience of being a part of a professional golf tournament. To learn more about volunteering for this event, visit lethbridgepcopen.ca or call Michelle at 403-327-5724. And that's your Bridge City News community calendar.